Leafs fans are livid at this as the Toronto Maple Leafs lost another brutal game against the Ottawa Senators. Craig Berube, some players came out, spoke out after the game, and it left fans once again livid and fired up. We're going to break that down and discuss what this means going forward as the Leafs are now approaching an extremely important section of games as their trade deadline looms closer and closer. So stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into it, quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. If you're part of the 71% who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. Of course, Darius, shout out to Darius. He was live after the game yesterday. I'm in Toronto on a trip here, so bear with the quality. It'll be fixed on Tuesday. But Darius, I still watched the game, and it was a brutal one. It was against the Ottawa Senators. The offense was pretty lackluster. Joseph Woll played a pretty solid game overall. But the loss was, things like that are going to happen. But the comments after the game and some Leafs fans around Twitter and everywhere, Reddit, fired up with the way that this team has come out against the worst teams in the NHL, like the teams that aren't as good, and then B, the way they respond afterwards. And you can see this here. We're going to start with this quote. There's a lot to go over today. Is there more juice in the room tonight for a Saturday night battle of Ontario? Berube said there's always emotion involved. We talk about being emotionally invested right away. That is a big thing when you're playing games in your division, and it is a rivalry. You have to be emotionally invested in this game. And boy, did that not really age great for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I'll let you take over, Darius, here. There's also a couple moves we're going to go over. But, at the end of the day, Craig Berube, he said this. We were all excited. It was a pretty big game here, especially coming off of a pretty bad loss the game before, and they didn't respond whatsoever.
No, and they started the game off well. They started off by scoring a goal. They went up 1-0, but then there was quite literally nothing after that. A lot of perimeter play, and we're going to get into a lot of their play style and, heading into the trade deadline in this video. But, Craig Berube came out and said it. You have to be emotionally invested in this game because the Ottawa Senators are going to be, because they're in a fight for their lives. They're trying to make the playoffs, and they're in a race with like 6 other teams that are all within 4 points of each other. So they're going to come in hard, and they want to play well. And the Leafs kind of, coming in, they're trying to stay on top of the Florida Panthers as well. And obviously, you dropped this game. I feel like this is a game you should have won. The goal that Ottawa won off of, it's very unlucky, right? Like, it's nothing that had to do with their play. They were sticking around in the game, so I have to give them credit again. They've been doing that. But when Ottawa did take the lead, 1-0, there was a lot of time left in the game, and I feel like besides maybe a shift or two for about 30 seconds each, there was no real pushback. It was a lot of the status quo, and I think that's a real problem with this team. When they stick around and they're able to pull out a win, it looks great, and I've loved it so far this year because it's exactly what this team needs: to play well defensively, let the skill shine through in those moments and take over. But when something like last night happens, where it's an unfortunate goal, an unlucky bounce, they fold a little bit in those last, minutes, 12 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it was, and they're not able to come back. So, Berube is not wrong in saying that, you have to be emotionally invested. He also mentioned, that they played a good defensive game. They played a good game overall, and I don't think that's untrue. But in those moments where they have to come up big, again, last night, it looked kind of stale. It looked flat to me. A lot of perimeter passing. It looks nice, but there's no results. There's no substance, and they continue to do that. So, Nick, heading into the trade deadline, we're talking about all these targets that they might be looking to acquire. It's their play style still in moments like that is the problem. They don't need a Taylor Hall on the third line or something like that. It's their play style, the mindset in those moments that is detrimental to them.
Yeah, and you can see what his comments exactly were on the loss. We had a lot of opportunities that we didn't put in the net. I think that is the difference, which I agree with. The team played hard. We were ready to go. I thought we did a lot of good things except to score. We got better as the game went along. I'm not sure I agree with that as much, but, at the end of the day, the Leafs have been now... I don't think they've been necessarily super lucky I think they're pretty unlucky the past couple of games, but a lot of that is because of their effort level. And obviously, we've talked about it in our streams. When they're playing well, luck is on their side. When they're forcing the issue, luck is less on their side. And especially over the past couple of games now, the Leafs have been playing a lot worse just in general. And what that leads to a lot of the time is that the puck luck won't go your way. Joseph Woll, he played great yesterday. He had really gave up one goal. The other one, off of a foot and then behind him, barely went in the net as well. But other than that, I think the team looked pretty flat, quite frankly. Losses are going to happen. I don't think it's the end of the world, but we talked about, I think, loss last week it would have been with Mitch Marner, and he said he thought they played good, and then Chris Tanev said the opposite. Here, even Craig Berube, is usually pretty hard, said they played well except to score. So that part is pretty interesting to me. Now, he did speak out on Joseph Woll's performance, saying he did a good job. He was really good in the net. He made good saves when we needed him and looked solid. He gave us a great opportunity to win, and that was very true. The only reason they were close in the game is because of Joseph Woll, but I don't know. It's comments like these that make me a little bit, not upset, obviously, but a little bit interested about what they consider a good game versus a bad game. And obviously, they had some good play. There was opportunities to score. I don't think they had a terrible game. Puck luck didn't go their way. But I would have rather, I think, just hear that, they didn't play hard enough. It didn't look like, to me at least, they played extremely hard. They played a little bit hard, sure, but I don't know if I would have called them ready to go, at least from watching from the on the TV.
Well, I think Leafs fans are smart because they watch, all the games, majority of the games, and they're locked in on these games. And when you watch it like a game last night, I think they would rather the Leafs come out after the game and say, we weren't good enough, we didn't get it done, instead of we played a good game, but the other team was better tonight. Like Leaf fans just don't want to hear that answer, even if it is true sometimes, right? They sometimes you just don't want to hear that answer. You want to say it wasn't good enough. We didn't execute our game plan because at the end of the day, they didn't. They scored one goal, and with the talent you have on this team, you got to score more than one goal. A Bobby McMahon shot from the high slot. So I think Leaf fans would rather answers like that. We just weren't good enough last night. We got to get back to it instead of the status quo Mitch Marner answer like we saw a couple weeks ago. Like you mentioned, we played a great game. So again, I don't think Craig Berube was wrong in saying that. The other thing I thought was interesting, I don't know why we don't hear from the guys that wear letters after games like this. I feel like we should have some more quotes from guys who aren't Jake McCabe, right? Who I think should be wearing a letter as well. I don't know why the guys wearing the letters aren't talking. Morgan Riley had another really bad game. This is another game where he's like giving up pucks in the defensive zone. He's, he's making errors that are unforced. The offensive zone, he looked shaky, he couldn't hit the net, right? So he's having a tough season. He's another guy that's got to get it going as well. And Joseph Woll, like you mentioned, I thought he played well, but again, he plays well. You get a fluky goal at the end. There's no real pushback from the team. There's a lot of pretty passing, one-touch passings, perimeter play. They're not driving anything to the net like Berube has been preaching all season. And then you get 10 minutes of, passing around and moving around, cycling, and no substance, right? And they don't tie the game, and they don't even get a chance to go into overtime. So it makes me a little bit worried because they can add another piece. We've seen it in the past, but if they don't get past that blockage, that mental block, with obviously the perimeter play, could be a problem moving forward.
Yeah, and Jake McCabe said pretty even game. They got a bounce at the end. We didn't get that gritty bounce in front of the net. Talking the last couple of games about being harder in the third period. We were coming on, providing some pressure down there. They got a bounce in front of the net, but I thought we defended pretty well, which they did. The defense is good aside from Morgan Riley, who I think could honestly deserve his own video at this point with how bad he has been. And he's been really bad. It showed yesterday, and it's been a while now of him being lackluster. Luckily, they have great other defensemen who are helping carry the load, because if this was last season and Morgan Riley was having a year like this, it would be a completely different scenario with how their defensive group has been. But yeah, I mean, from the defensive side of things, I still think they're playing really good hockey. Goaltending-wise, they'll be solid. Anthony Stolarz is coming back. They need to figure out the goal scoring, putting pressure on the net, and there's spurts of it where it happens. There's spurts of it where they look like the best team in the NHL, and then there's spurts where they can't beat the Ottawa Senators, who, again, aren't terrible, but they also are, out of the last couple weeks, schedules of games, and their schedule of games last couple weeks, Ottawa's been one of the worst teams that they've played when it comes to, they've been playing a lot of really good teams. So let us know down below what your thoughts are. Hopefully the Leafs can get some wins and get back in the win column. They've been very hot and cold, 3 losses in a row, 3 wins in a row, now 2 losses in a row. So hopefully that changes. We'll be live for the next game. And thank you guys for watching. See you guys in a later video.